Now, coming into the home stretch of the play, things just stitch up into more and more horror. I mean, Gloucester's eyes being pulled out, you'd imagine would be the worst, but of course, and this is the point, right when you think, or you can say, I'm at the worst, that's hubris. That's a Greek word for kind of arrogance with a capital A. The gods hate hubris. They knock it down right away, and they just make things worse. And Edgar has, had this transformation completely. He gave up his identity. He becomes poor Tom. He really goes deep into poor Tom. I mean, he says he's counterfeiting, but there's a complete sense that any of us who've read or watched the play, that he's become this person. But now he's sobering up out of it, and he's realizing things about suffering and pain. And watching Lear go through something so intense has made him pull out of it. I edited this scene down, obviously, to try and get to the core of what it is that Edgar experiences when seeing his blind father. Oh gods, again, calling out, what is this play's relationship to God or gods? Remember, A03, this is a pre-Christian world, and a lot has been written about and thought about in terms of how does Christianity function in the play. And so you can think about the idea of Job, his suffering, or A.C. Bradley very, talked about the play being retitled The Redemption of King Lear, as if through the suffering there's some way of making up for what's happened. And that's very much a Christian allegory, a Christian reading of the play, that all this suffering has meaning. And I think it's modern critics who put a lot of pressure on that, to say, actually, this hope you're imagining is here might not actually be here. We just call up to the gods. Who's can say I'm at the worst? I'm worse than I e'er was. And worse I may be yet. The worst is not so long as we can say this is the worst. And what's happened between these two lines is he sees his blinded father. So you can't really figure out what the worst is until it's over. And this is what he's realizing. He thinks he's coming out of something, but the horror goes much deeper. Gloucester is being accompanied by a servant, and he hears the voice of Edgar, but he's told it's poor Tom, the beggar. And Gloucester says, last night's storm I saw a fellow which made me think a man a worm. Isn't that Lear's conclusion in a way? Man is no more than a worm. We are the same. We think we're better. We clothe ourselves. No, we are the thing itself. But here he's saying a man as low as a worm. And then strangely, my son came into my mind. What a beautiful line. I think practically, he came into his mind, maybe recognized his voice, maybe, but also just something resonated him. Maybe he imagines what happened to him. Perhaps he imagined his son's gone insane. Perhaps he's imagining the suffering. Either way, just that this is empathy, I think. And yet my mind was scarce friends with him. I didn't want to become close with him. I've heard more since. This is the kind of moniker of the play, as opposed to the gods you're calling out to for redemption. Here's the other vision as expressed by Gloucester. The gods hurt us for their fun. I mean, that is a bleak vision. Not only maybe are there no gods, no, worse, there are gods. They're totally indifferent to us, but when they do involve us with themselves, they treat us like boys treat flies, pulling off their wings for fun. They kill us for their sport. I mean, it is a bleak vision. How should this be? Bad is the trade that must play fool to sorrow, angering itself in others. Oh, so now what's he going to have to do? He's going to have to play a new role. He's going to have to buoy up his father. Bless thee, master. Who knows what voice puts it. Is that you, naked fellow? Do you know Dover? Yes, I, master. There's a cliff whose high and bending head looks fearfully in the confined deep. Bring me but to the very brim of it, and I'll repair the misery thou dost bear with something rich about me. For that place I shall no leading need. From that place I don't need any leading, because I will go to death. He's planning his suicide. He's lost hope. This is the worst sin in Christianity for a Christian audience. I mean, even when you think about the double suicide of Romeo and Juliet, this is a travesty in terms of religion. And Edgar's not going to allow this to happen. He's going to hatch a plan. But it's the language again that shows just that tenderness. Give me thy arm, poor Tom shall lead thee. I mean, I really would strongly urge you to reread the play as much as you can, to hear actors reading it, to watch it. Because when done well, it's the simple lines that really penetrate to the emotional core, I'd say, of this play. Art cold, boy, I'm cold too. Poor Tom shall lead thee. Yes, and you do have more complex lines, but not that much more. As flies to wanton boys are we to the gods, they kill us for our sport. We are balancing now in the play on a knife edge between despair and hope. And part of what makes the play hurt, I think, is that dance, that closeness. We imagine there's going to potentially, it's going to work out. And it most certainly does not work out. It's the opposite of working out. But Edgar promises that he will, he's not going to let, he's made this pact with himself that he's not going to let his father go into suicide. But it begs the question, as James Shapiro's asked in his latest book, 1605, there's really no reason, why doesn't Edgar just tell his father who he is? Why doesn't he make peace with him? Why this elaborate plan? And there is no answer for that, but it does take us to another moment, an unbelievable theatrical moment in Shakespeare's canon of Edgar taking his blinded father to the cliff's edge and making him think he's committing suicide, but reinforcing the idea of a faith in the world and a determination to live.